This video is brought to you by Morphas. Yeah, that's right, this video is sponsored by me. Me. Because nobody else will do it, will they? It's kind of sad and pathetic really, isn't it? Who doesn't love a good bit of mythology, right? Greek gods fighting wars against the Titans, or maybe a bit of King Arthur, unless it's on film, in which case no. But there's a reason these stories from around the world have survived for so long. It's because they're good stories, and they make for good reading. There's really three kinds of mythology book. There's your straight up academic discussion kind of book. There's your straightforward retelling of the myths in their original context. And then there's the fictionalized storybook type, which kind of reworks and reimagines the mythology. On the academic side of things, you've got this. This is Robert Graves, who wrote I, Claudius, war poet. It's called The White Goddess, and it's about this idea of mythological themes recurring across different cultures, different civilizations, and it's an academic discussion on that. It's really, really interesting. I'm slowly working my way through this, but it's not for everyone. It is very heavy going, and there are some bits where you think, you know what, he just pulled that out of his bottom, didn't he? Like, there's a whole bit where he tries to restructure a Welsh poem called The Battle of the Trees, and I'm not really sure of the way he does it. He seems to be jumping to conclusions in places. So then you have your straight up retellings, the original myths, the original mythological stories. I can recommend Neil Gaiman, Norse Mythology, which takes the stories of the Norse gods and puts them into an easy to read, easy to refer back to little sort of guide. If I have one problem with this, it's that it focuses too much on Thor and Loki and kind of skips over the other gods a bit. But that said, it's still, it's marvellously written. It's a book I really did enjoy, apart from off, you stupid motorbike. It's a book I really did enjoy, though. In the same vein, you've got A.S. Byatt, Ragnarok. Now, I heard some bad things about this before I read it, when I had it on order, so I was a little apprehensive at first, but actually, I think overall it's as good a retelling as Gaiman's retelling. It has a framing device, a sort of semi-autobiographical framing device about the author during the Second World War as she's reading these tales for the first time. But otherwise it is just a straight up retelling. It's a bit old fashioned, but I kind of like that about it. It's very readable. It's only short as well, 150 pages. It's not just concentrated on Ragnarok either. It does sort of go into sort of some details about how Ragnarok came about, and it's not the whole of Viking mythology, but it's basically the important stuff leading up to Ragnarok, and it is very, very good, I found. Next up we have Stephen Fry's, I suppose, trilogy of mythological retellings. This is the only one of these I've actually read, so I can't comment on the others, but this is a very informative, very lively account of the Trojan Wars. And it's not just a retelling either, he does sort of go into some kind of discussions in places about the myths, about where they come from. But it is mainly a retelling. I've referred to a bit of this in my own works. I've used it to look up some stuff, to get my head around some stuff. This also actually changed something in a chapter I haven't released yet. There was something I put down based on an idea I read elsewhere, but the same idea crops up in this, and Stephen Fry actually refutes it, so I've kind of changed it in my version because it's debatable as to whether that idea is the case. And speaking of my own work, Morphas, that's my thing, that's my company, if you like. Mainly, we do books like this one, Redbird, which, yes, if you go onto my channel, I did review my own book, without saying it was my own book. Subtle advertising. Not sure it worked though. This one is based on a Greek myth. I can't say which because it's a massive spoiler. One of the big problems with these myths, these mythologies, is the stories are so well known, we know how they end. So, don't want to give too much away with this, but if you want to know what that one's about, check out the review. But I've got all sorts of books, and a lot of them are centred around mythology and legends and sort of how they work into society, how they work into the modern world. But not only that, we have a film division as well, which the big centrepiece we were doing, we're not doing that now, because reasons. But regularly I produce celluloid using the company, that's a Morphas thing. And, I do occasionally do proper short films as well. So if you want to check all this stuff out, go to the link in the description below to my website. And maybe even, if you like it, we've got merch as well. So finally we have the storybook books. Storybook books. Yeah, storybook books. Mythological retellings in the form of fiction that often rework and reinterprets the mythology. One of my favourites is the Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Alexander. These are the last two in the series. There's 5 of them. This is Book 4, Taran Wanderer, and Book 5, The High King. The first 3 are the Book of Free, the Black Cauldron, and the Castle of Lear. They're what the Disney film The Black Cauldron was based on. The film which, nearly killed Disney. But that's because when it came to adaptation, they kind of, there's a whole hornet's nest surrounding that film, but one of the things they didn't adapt it all that well. They cut a lot of stuff out, and the books are so much better. They're based on, they take ideas from Welsh mythology, from the Mabinogion, they take characters from there, and they sort of weave their own story around them. It's In places it's very reminiscent of The Lord of the Rings. There are things that will definitely remind you of The Lord of the Rings in there. But I think what makes these books is the character arc and the way the central characters develop throughout the series. The central character, Taran, he starts off as an assistant pig keeper. He doesn't know where he comes from, but he's convinced that he's the son of nobility and that he's going to leave his home and become a famous knight or warrior. And the books are all about how he grows up and how his own opinion of himself and the people around him changes. I think there needs to be more discussion about these because these are fantastic books. Another Disney adaptation was The Sword in the Stone, which was based on The Once and Future King by T.H. White, or the first book in this series. This is a compendium edition. There are, again, I think 5 books in this series. I've only read the first one so far, but I really, really enjoyed it. It takes you through the entirety of Arthur's life. There's another film based on this, actually, on the other books, called Camelot, with Richard Harris in there. It's a bit dodgy in terms of the way they've set up the film. It's all clearly done on a rubbish set, and it's a musical as well, so... But the book, I can at least recommend the first one. And you know what's coming last, don't you? I'm doing an entire reading vlog of the second volume of this lot. Riordan, Percy Jackson. I can't tell you how much I flipping love these books. The way they use mythology is so intelligent. The way it reworks Greek and later Roman mythology. Wow. It's so clever and so well done and so well written. They're very difficult books to put down. I get through these very, very quickly. Most books I try and take my time with, but the first 5 of these I read really, really quickly, and they leave you wanting more. This last one in the first series, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, this one I was a little disappointed with. I liked how it ended. It wrapped things up really, really well. And then in the second series, Heroes of Olympus, it basically laughs in your face and goes, haha, no consequences. This one I was a little disappointed in because it just ends up as a bit of a generic smashy smashy bang bang rather than a nuanced in-depth ending as I was hoping for, but still really, really fantastic. Recommend, definitely. If you only read one, at least go and read The Lightning Thief, the first in the series. But if you read that, then you've got to read the rest, haven't you? Really, because you'll see how good they are.